Hear my request. Okay.
I apologize for the delay. There are pages missing, so let me get my virtual copy.
Oh, yeah. There.
Where's the link? So Tanya, you want to pull out what part of that motion?
I just request to amend it to acknowledge the superintendent's notification of personnel, specifically the non-renewals resignation separately.
Okay, so we would be taking out 10.3.3 and 10.3.5. Is there a second for that?
Napier, a second.
Are there any other amendments?
Napier, I'd like to move to. Thank you, Steve. I move to amend, or to make a motion to change agenda item 11.4 to add 4 motions specifically. 1, vote to permit policy 1250, visit to the schools, policy 5112, ages of attendance, and policy 0200, goals/objectives for Thomaston Public Schools to be fast tracked by 2/3 vote of the members present at tonight's Board of Education meeting. 2, vote to accept/approve the changes to policy 1250, visits to the schools as presented. 3, vote to accept/approve the changes to policy 5112, ages of attendance as presented. And 4, vote to accept/approve the changes to policy 0200, goals/objectives for Thomaston Public Schools as presented.
Steve Carr, second.
Napier, I'd like to make another motion to amend the agenda. About the school lunch prices to, to vote to accept/approve the updated proposed meal price increase submitted by Jennifer Zarilli, Food Services Director, for the 2025-2026 school year.
Steve Carr, second.
I think that covers all the amendments. All those in favor of the voting on those amendments?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Okay. At this time, the board welcomes public participation in accordance with the rules of common courtesy and the bylaws of the board at 9325 meeting conduct. 5 minutes may be allotted to each subject matter. No boisterous conduct shall be permitted. Persistence in boisterous conduct shall be grounds for termination of that person's privilege to address the board. The chairperson may clear the room so that board members may continue the meeting. No oral presentation shall include charges, complaints against any Board of Education employee, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified by name. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by their comments. While it is not the board's intent to stifle public comment, speakers should be aware that if their statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, the speaker may be held legally responsible. Speakers unsure of the legal ramification of what they are about to say are urged to consult first with their legal advisor. Per the August 2016 Policy Committee meeting, responses to speakers will be in the form of a written letter from the board chairperson, and that letter will be attached to the meeting minutes. Speakers will not receive a verbal reply to public comment during a meeting. Would any members of the public like to address the board?
Good evening. I'm Janice Plocha. I am a grandmother of two Thomaston students who are at WAMS for middle school, and one of them is going on to high school. And I think a lot of other parents of children that are going to the magnet schools were a little bit blindsided with the busing situation. For me and my husband, we're both retired. So if push came to shove, we could drop the kids off and pick them up because we would want them to stay at WAMS. They're both doing very well there. My granddaughter is very artistic, and this is like a perfect program for her. So, but for other parents that are working, they would probably have to pull their kids out because there's no way to, leave work. And that's why I'm here instead of my daughter, their mother, because she works. She can't get out of work to go pick up the kids from school. And it's mostly the picking up because she could probably drop them off. But that would also be difficult because she works in Torrington. I did speak to Superintendent Cross, and she gave me some information that I don't think other parents knew about. We didn't know that this has been going on for over a year. It just seemed like all of a sudden we were notified that as of the end of the school year, there would be no more transportation from Thomaston to Waterbury. I also spoke to, it was like very confusing. I'm telling you, I made so many phone calls. I contacted the Jeff Hunter, who's in charge of transportation in Waterbury. He emailed me and said he had no idea that Waterbury was going to be providing transportation to Thomaston students. I called the superintendent's office. They had no idea. Or so they told me, they had no idea that this was happening. Finally, Mr. Albini, who's the operations person, called me back, and he did say that they are trying very hard to work out something either with the state to get grant money or whatever, but he kind of, it wasn't a guarantee, but he kind of assured me that they were they were trying their best to work out something. I certainly hope that either Waterbury or you can work out something to get these kids back and forth to Waterbury. Williams has not that, believe me, I volunteer at Black Rock School. I have no real complaints about the Thomaston schools. It's just that where my grandkids, their focus is on the arts, and being an arts magnet school, it's the perfect spot for them. thank you. And I, like I said, they both went through Black Rock School, which I absolutely love. And I go down there. I haven't volunteered this year because I guess they're having a new reading program that is very difficult. But for several years, I have volunteered to go down and help with, some of the kids that kind of fall through the cracks with reading. And it's been my pleasure, being a former teacher. It was great. I didn't have to do lesson plans or go for recess duty or anything. I just went in, I taught, and the kids loved me, the teachers loved me. So it's a very positive experience. And I want to thank Mr. Cossack for giving me that opportunity to come in and work with the kids. And thank you for your time tonight. And I hope we can work something out for our students. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Larry Duffany. I'm a town resident. I'm also the town treasurer, former building principal, former central office staffer, hold my doctorate in education. And there are actually a few things on my mind. One is the statement that was read about waiting 2 weeks to hear from the Board of Education or from anybody that works in the school district. In your grading policy, starting on page 19 in handbook, you give teachers a week. And I honestly think that the board and its employees should be held to the same standard. 2 weeks is too long. Yes, you need to deliberate, but I don't think 2 weeks is actually timely enough for people, especially when they're pressed for time, if they have to make other arrangements to address issues. A second thing that has troubled me is as I'm out in the public and as I'm watching stuff on social media is the issue of budgetary bloat and of the non-renewal of teachers. And I understand that's coming up later, but I'm concerned that we have teachers that are being non-renewed for monetary reasons. And yet there are other parts of the budget that seem to keep climbing and climbing without control and without restraint. I'm also concerned because the simple non-renewal of teachers does not solve a budgetary problem when you have to go out and rehire people for those positions. There's still the cost of recruitment. There's the cost of retraining. There's the cost of bringing them in and trying to keep them there. There's also the unknown cost when you have students who could be having that same teacher 1 year and then another and then another, and that costs the students and it costs them dearly because now they have to relearn teachers, and that's not fair to the learner either. So I think that there are costs beyond what we look at monetarily, and perhaps it actually isn't saving us much of anything at all. So I'm going to ask you to look at that again. The other thing is I do see sometimes things coming across my desk, and I'm not going to get specific, but just for the purposes of things like workshops and what those costs are, I'm simply questioning whether those are being reviewed and being given prior approval, especially when it looks at things like accommodations for those. Okay. I saw one that was particularly concerning to me. The last thing I'm going to talk about is from my role as adjunct college professor. And that is because I have had several Thomaston High School graduates come across my classroom in the college setting. You have some policies that are failing the students. The policy that you don't really have to worry about homework because you can make it up later. The policy of you can retest and redo ad nauseum is neglectful, negligent, and abusive to the kids. Because when they get to my classroom, they fail. And the message we send to them is, Your daily work doesn't matter. Show up to work late. Don't get the task done. It's okay, Harvey. We'll take care of you. And then they go to the workforce, they go to college. And when that happens, then they find out what real is. Then they find out their grades in college drop. Then they find that they get fired because they didn't do the daily thing, let alone the big project. It's not all the Thomaston kids that have that. There are wonderful, motivated kids. But the ones that really need the support, the ones that need the structure aren't getting the structure they truly need because the message they need to hear is your daily work matters. Quality matters. And if you get a 50, from a 50 to an 89, you can just redo and redo and redo. And folks, that ain't life. We're not educating them for life if that's what we're doing. And I'm going to ask you to revisit that policy as well. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm Julie Ingham from 70 Elm Street in Thomaston. Larry covered a lot of what I was going to say, but I have a couple of comments and requests. Number one, the policy where no one can talk at the meeting or you don't respond right away. I'd like to see my Board of Ed members deliberate and hear what they have to say, even if we can't speak again. I should know what you feel. We elect you. I'd like to see that change, and I would like the board to really consider when they renegotiate contracts that the superintendent does not negotiate her own contracts. I think it's way too much. We have a gal at the library, master's degree. She's making $20 an hour. And other employees in town. We have to think about all of Thomaston. Not that the kids aren't the most important, but we're a small community. We have to take care of everybody. So thank you for your consideration.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming here tonight. For the record, name is Nate Vieira. My address is 131 Thomaston Circle. And I am not up here to respond to any testimony that was given tonight, as that would be against policy. But what I would like to do is address my personal opinions on some of the matters that were brought up before the public hearing at the Board of Finance meeting when we went over the budget. And there were quite a few concerns brought up by the public. And while I know it was a Board of Finance meeting, seemed to be a good chunk of that meeting that was taken up by Board of Education discourse, stuff about Board of Education policies and educational best practices. And I would just like to state my personal opinions on some of those matters. I know that someone in the room at the Opera House on that night said that we elect the board. We should be allowed to hear their opinions on the issues that we elected them to vote on. And I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. And when it comes to that, I agree with members of the public. And it's my opinion that the board should move in a quicker, more transparent action. And I understand that there are members of the board and myself that want to keep us out of certain legal liabilities. We have to do that. We would be irresponsible not to, and to be catching lawsuits onto the school district and therefore onto the town. But there has to be some kind of gray area, some kind of compromise when it comes to that. And for instance, if a parent comes up and says during public participation, I want to know what time my kid that I want to enter into the school system would get on early dismissal, I don't think that they should have to wait for an answer. And I don't think opinions of board members, for the most part at baseline, would get us into lawsuits. If you're just asking us what we think about changing a certain policy, this thing, that thing, the other thing, I don't see the issue with that. And it's something that I hope the board comes forward and addresses to foster that debate that's going to make our policy stronger and encourage more people to come forward and give us and tell us how they feel from their perspective, so we get that input that we've been lacking for so long from the public at our meetings. On top of that, I know that there were several people who brought up and I know everyone wants us to be able to give the fullest services possible to our students in the district, but bloat in certain areas of the budget and concerns of that sort, because we are seeing a reduction in the increase much greater than what we saw when we started the budget deliberations. And when it comes to that, I think we do have to do a better job, even though we did through several instances in this budget process, make sure that those cuts happen as far away from the children and our students as possible. We need to continue to get better at looking at the numbers, looking at the line items, and ensuring that we put forward the strongest possible budget. And that's something we can always improve on. And then in regards to non-renewals, I would just like to say that in terms of our turnover rate, and this is slightly unrelated, but we also are in a certain place similarly when it comes to expulsions. I think our non-renewals and our expulsions are too high personally. And I think that there has to be more measures to be taken. So we are still enforcing our policies, and our policies are taken seriously. And I know that's something that we as a board, not sure if everyone here who has come here to provide testimony knows this, but we've had many presentations, deliberations, conversations about how we could tackle the expulsion problem. But I also think we have to do more in terms of the non-renewals, because just the cost of training, so on and so forth, of getting new staff members, if we're not getting rid of a program, we're going to have to find someone else to refill it. And we don't pay as much as other towns. And if we're not going to be competitive in terms of salary, we should be competitive in terms of job security and stability. And I would just also like to say that we have to do, I am completely fine with being self-reflective and self-critical. I think we have to do a better job of our public relations and our communications, and making sure that what we put out there is is heard by as many people as possible. Because I know that there were certain things during that meeting that were said that were just simply not true, like in circumstance with public transportation to and from Waterbury. That service isn't going away. That service, it was just a grant, and we're not taking up half of the grant, and Waterbury's taking up the half of the grant, and the service is still going on. No one's going to have an issue getting on a bus and going to WAMS. No one's going to have an issue getting their education in that school district, despite what was put out. Mind you, through a unanimous vote during our budget meeting, 9-0, that we were not going to go forward with that grant. It was because we knew that service was still going to stay in place. Under no circumstance do I think a single member of this board would want to see our children, our students, not be able to make it to school if they go out of district. But I know I have to stay within the same time parameters as everyone else, so I'll just leave it at that. But I just want to make sure that my personal viewpoints are known by the public that elected me.
Is there anybody else?
Sorry, getting over cold. Adam Marble, just live here in town for about 20 years. And I have 6 kids, so I've had three daughters, one that's at the high school still, but 3 daughters, and I have 2 sons and a daughter at the end. And I have kind of a mix, right? Because I have some really high achieving daughters, and then my son struggled a little bit more, especially one that's got ADHD and I definitely feel for his teachers. Honestly, I know this is a struggle. There's a whole group in his grade that are probably very difficult to deal with. They feed off of each other. Um, but the challenge is this last year we had a disciplinary problem with my son. I can't talk about the specifics. That's kind of how it works with discipline here in our school district. You have to sign away that you're not going to discuss it all. But my experience was that the discipline that was administered was very heavy-handed. It didn't take into account my son at all. At that point, once this error was committed by my son, it was the maximum amount of punishment was administered. It was more like you would experience in the legal system where the prosecutor is just pushing for the maximum amount of time, only interested in justice and no mercy. And that's just not the same that should be happening in our schools. The child's needs should be taken into account, even if they made a mistake. Now, the right way is to have progressive discipline that helps the individual to change. Pushing for the maximum 1 year in any expulsion without any regard to the child, and making the parents claw back with expensive attorneys and time and everything up in the air for this child who's just trying to figure out what he's supposed to do with his life and if his life's over or not, is just completely the wrong way. And I realize it's probably just part of the policy, because the policy for the Board of Ed is just that it's up to 1 year, and then it's at the discretion of employees to be able to administer that. But it's possibly something needs to happen with the policy, because the application of it is completely wrong. And so I would like to see the board address progressive discipline, specifically with expulsion, so that we can take into account the needs of the children, not make the parents claw back with threats and loud voices and anger to get you to take into account the needs of their children. I think that's a disgrace, really, for that to happen. I was also told by my attorney that the Board of Ed was basically a rubber stamp in all decisions, that couldn't go to the Board of Ed for relief, that I had no choice there, and that was disappointing. Looking back, maybe I should have taken the chance, but I was told that it wouldn't go anywhere. And so I think that's definitely a problem that needs to be addressed. And no parent, every parent should feel like they can go to the Board of Ed and get relief for a decision that they feel is wrong. I think we all we have high achievers. Some of our kids are very high achievers. They're the model kids. My oldest daughter was a valedictorian from Thomaston High School. My second daughter was close, and my third daughter will probably, be in the top 10, especially, or essentially. And the three of my other kids will probably not be anywhere close. But they're great kids, and they've got their own talents and abilities and skills. And the Board of Ed, you represent the town, and so you have to represent all the kids that are high achievers and the ones that are not so high achievers academically, the ones that struggle behaviorally. They all need to have the chance to be able to graduate Thomaston High School and be productive members of our society. If they're just pushed to stay in their house for 1 year because they made a mistake and without very much support, I mean, really, what are we doing? It's a problem. I know you've probably heard this before, and I definitely have seen the stat that you were talking about before. In 2023, I think we had above the average amount of expulsions in the state. And we're Thomaston. So I found that that was a shock to me, that we'd have more expulsions than other schools in the state. And there must be something wrong if that's happening. And both on the side where we're addressing discipline early on with kids, and then what we're doing with expulsions after. So thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you all for your opinions. Moving on. I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
Sarah Ethier, I vote to approve the regular meeting minutes dated February 10th, 2025 as presented.
Here a second.
Sarah Ethier, vote to approve the special meeting minutes dated February 13th, 2025 as presented.
Napier a second.
Sarah Ethier, vote to approve the special meeting minutes dated March 4th, 2025 as presented.
Napier a second.
Sarah Ethier, vote to approve the special meeting minutes dated April 2nd, 2025 as presented.
Napier a second.
Sarah Ethier, vote to approve the special meeting minutes dated April 7th, 2025 as presented.
Here a second.
Beth Campbell abstain.
Moving into our recognitions, we have our February Rotary Student of the Month, Liliana Van Ormer.
That's the microphone. Hi, everyone. Hi. I want to thank everyone involved for giving me this honor. It means a lot to me to be chosen from my huge, vast, numerous, countless, and almost innumerable class of 43 peers. However, I believe that it is the small quantity that makes Thomaston special. There's a saying, very common one I'm sure you know, that good things come in small packages. And Thomaston is a quintessential example of this statement. Unfortunately, I wasn't born here like many of my peers. I came in 3rd grade as a nervous kid, worried they wouldn't make any friends, scared they'd be left out. I basically had a midlife crisis at the ripe age of 8 years old. That all changed when I actually got to Thomaston. Everyone welcomed me into their lives like I was family, to a point where I didn't even have time to miss whatever life I thought I had at my old location. I can't even call it my home after what Thomaston's shown me. One of the greatest connections I have experienced through Thomaston is through sports. I cannot emphasize enough how much Thomaston cares and supports every sporting team I've ever been on. For soccer, I went through the rec program and continued to play not only on the girls' travel team, but also on the boys. It taught me not only that boys do not like being beaten by girls, but also to be tough and strong because no one will ever go easy on you. I continued to be a varsity starter for all 4 years of my high school experience. Our team broke records for Thomaston in winning the Berkshire League and getting to the quarters, semis, and even the finals in states, which was a huge accomplishment for us. It wasn't because we had good players or good skill. It's because we were united as a team and as a town, win or lose. I had a couple of personal accomplishments here and there, but I'm most proud of the team I had the honor of playing with. I also had the honor of going through the legendary program of Thomaston basketball. I've been dribbling a ball with a big T on my jersey since Trotters. I got to see great basketball players come out of this town and go on to do great things. I've also seen those same people return and give all their credit and give all of this town their credit. This program is more than just a sport. It's a family. Everyone's connected, everyone's together, everyone fails and succeeds together. It's never just one person. It's one of the most extraordinary teams that I've ever experienced and got the honor to be a part of. Only Thomaston could have made it that united, strong, and successful. Throughout my 4 years, we won the Berkshire League 3 times and made it to the finals twice, even taking the win my freshman year. And man, did that set the standard high. Every step of the way, the town held us up. Their support made us believe that we could reach the sun, and that's exactly where we went. After high school, I have the honor of continuing my soccer journey at Ohio Wesleyan University, and I couldn't have done it without this town and the lessons it taught me, both on the field and the court. I will never be able to repay you for what you've given me, so I might as well start by saying thanks. Despite the epic sports legacy Thomaston's acquired over the years, this is not the only thing our small town has to offer. They also have hometown, Mona Lisa's, Tony, and how could I forget my daily trip to Duncan? Even more than that, Thomaston has a fantastic education system. It has so much to offer that students couldn't take advantage of all of its wonderful opportunities, even if they tried. I personally utilized the school's connection to college courses. Throughout my high school experience, I have taken 5 college courses and am in the process of completing 4 more. My personal favorite and rare opportunity that Thomaston School offers is the science engineering cohort. This 3-year course allows high school students to develop a scientific research project and earn college credit. Cohort was essential to me because the topic of study I wish to pursue as a career, it isn't really common and offered in high schools as a normal course. In college, I'm enrolled to major in zoology, the field I've wanted to pursue for most of my life, like since kid. The cohort has helped me in that it allows me to study animals specifically in a scientific aspect and expand my knowledge of the subject. My current project, as kind of went into before, is on offshore killer whales. Basically, I get to look at killer whale calls in a spectrogram and observe structures and whatnot there. So that was really exciting. Anyway, I would have never discovered how amazing the topic I'm pursuing is and the possibilities it offers without this class and without this school district. I took all other college courses like math and English, love you Santo, but this class and biology were by far my favorite. Maybe it was because they're both taught by Miss Stowe, but I can't take Miss Stowe to college, so I'm going to have to go with science. I am thankful for my family and the family I have found in this quaint little town. Thomaston's holiday traditions, athletic support, and academic excellence make it a wonderful place to live. Plus, the Duncan's so close, doesn't hurt. I can honestly say that I don't know if I would be the person I am today without this town and all the people in it. I don't have enough time to thank every person in this town who has impacted me, as there are just too many, and I am running out of time. But know that you all hold a special place in my heart and forever will. I am forever in your debt. A final thanks to the Rotary Club for granting me this award, giving me time to give this speech, and giving me food. I am genuinely excited to share the gift that Thomaston has given me with the rest of the world. Thank you. Have a great day. Go Bears.
So as you can see, Lily was honored at a Rotary lunch back in February. And we also have the Students of the Month from February. Lily Van Ormer, G. Wilmont Hungerford, Bo Kozaszewski, Dustin Galpin, Kendall Montana, Zoe Catterton, Ella Holloway, Samuel Walker, Adriana Rodriguez, Michaela Kowalski, Ryan Brandt, Peyton Proprotnik, Avery Lee, and Lyric Joseph. And they were honored at a breakfast in February as well. Congratulations. Moving into our March Rotary Student of the Month, Kaylin DeVoe.
Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club for honoring me here today and the teachers who have selected me for March's Rotary Student of the Month. I would also like to give a special thank you to my friends and family who continue to support me every day, and the teachers like Miss Stowe, who has shown sincere effort in affecting my learning and my attitude as a person, as well as Miss Johnson, my art teacher, who has helped me creatively strive in art. It's an honor to be recognized and for my hard work and that I put forth to be standing here today to be giving this speech. For almost a decade now, I've devoted my time to improving and learning how to master many different mediums and techniques to become the best artist I can be. When I was younger, I used to actually hate art and did not like to attend the class. This was because I lacked the skill and also the fact that I never showed a sincere effort or interest in it. It wasn't until after I saw how impressive other art pieces were that it sparked inspiration in me. I began watching tutorial after tutorial to practice drawing for hours. As I improved, art was something that I considered that connected me with other people. I would bring my sketches everywhere with me, and that would also catch attention. I would love to share it with the people around me, whether it be my parents, my friends, or even my teachers. Art not only brought me close to people, but it made me feel something inside myself that brought me joy. Even to this day, art is something of my biggest passions. For the last 5 years at Thomaston High School, I've taken art classes ranging from Art 1 to Art 4, and now this semester, Painting 1. I now get to dabble in different mediums and styles like watercolor and acrylics. My desire to be an artist has landed me many great accomplishments that many people can't say they've done. I've been selected for Honors Night for the last 3 years, and I've received numerous awards ranging from Art 1 and 2, and as well as an Art 4 award. That same night, I was offered a scholarship to the Rochester Institute of Technology for Art. And again, on April 1st, I will be attending an art award at the AquaTurf. Leaving a greater impact here at Thomaston High School, for my senior capstone, I was able to paint murals in the hallway at Thomaston. We have many of our clubs represented by the cafeteria, and I wanted to share more of them and make them more widely known so students would acknowledge them and actively become members. First, I started by creating the THS Fishing Club. The emblem included a largemouth bass requested by Mr. Lynn, the Fishing Club advisor, the year it was created, and lettering painted in layers of gold. I also had enough time during the semester to create a science club mural, and this was something that was important to me because, again, I am the president, but also it's a large and impressive group of young students. The design that I created was something that I envisioned, a beaker with sparkly bubbles evaporating. I'm so glad that I could leave my mark here at the school with my very own designs. Along with the murals, I was able to create the 2024-2025 yearbook. Art is something that I hold near and dear to myself, and it's not only one of my devotions, but also something I plan on doing long term. I plan to going to college and minoring in business, but most importantly, going to school for graphic design. I guess it's true that passions often do lead to success.
So Kaylin was also honored by the Rotary at lunch and at the Student of the Month breakfast with the other students from March, including Gracie Marble, Samantha Lee, Ted Valero, Ava Hill, Aiden Wood, Owen Dobos, Elise Williams, Rylan Rostroka, Noah Federich, Eliana Kuhl, Cass Kloss, Hayden Chen, and Bryn Apel. Congratulations to you. So we have some shout outs to honor students who were recognized by outside organizations. Our Connecticut Association of Schools Celebration of the Arts Award recipients. We have Kaylin DeVoe, Chloe Booth, Amir Malik, Connor Birkenberger, Owen Dobos, and Cheyenne Trafka. These students were recently honored at a banquet held at the AquaTurf. Congratulations to you all. We have Chloe Smoes, who won second place at the Connecticut Skills USA Baking Competition and CIA Scholarship recipient. Chloe competed against 11 other culinary students from other Connecticut Tech high schools, so congratulations to her. We have our 2025 Most Improved Student Award and Hartford Yard Goat Celebration for Kyle Boyd. Kyle was honored with a certificate and took part in a parade with all of the other most improved students in the state prior to the Yard Goats game on April 17th. So we congratulate Kyle. We have our Going Above and Beyond at Black Rock School. Teresa Gambino, one of our custodians. Congratulations to Teresa. We have our middle school basketball supporters, Sarah DeMatteis, Michelle Pope, and James Bennell. Congratulations to them. And we have a merit award recipient for our CIAC Bob McMahon, our basketball coach, former basketball coach here at Thomaston High School. Bobby was honored at a dedication ceremony at the Mohegan Sun on March 14th, where he was recognized for his tremendous impact on Connecticut high school basketball. So we congratulate Bobby. Moving on to our March 2025. Thank you. Our March 2025 staff spotlight is Jennifer McAtee. The mathematics intervention is at the center school. Dear Thomaston community, at Thomaston Public Schools, we are fortunate to have educators who go above and beyond to support student learning and success. This month, we are thrilled to shine our staff spotlight on Jennifer McAtee, a math interventionist at Thomaston Center School, whose dedication, expertise, and passion for mathematics make a lasting difference in the lives of students and teachers alike. In her role as a math interventionist, Jennifer works closely with students to identify and close learning gaps in mathematics, ensuring they develop the skills and confidence needed to excel. She tailors her instruction to meet individual student needs using research-based strategies to reinforce foundational math concepts, build problem-solving abilities, and foster a growth mindset in her students. Her patient and encouraging approach makes math feel more accessible and engaging, helping students overcome challenges and celebrate their progress. Beyond her work with students, Jennifer plays an integral role in supporting math teachers at Center School. She collaborates with educators in their classrooms, providing guidance, resources, and instructional strategies that strengthen math instruction across grade levels. As an active and valued member of the math professional learning community, she contributes valuable insights that help shape best practices and drive continuous improvements in mathematics education. Jennifer's impact extends beyond daily instruction. She has been a key leader in the development of grades 4 through 6 math proficiency scales, a critical component of the district's Marzano's Academy's competency-based education model. Her expertise and dedication were instrumental in designing student-facing scales, empowering students to take control of their learning by clearly understanding their learning objectives and progress. These scales provide students with a roadmap to success, fostering independence and ownership of their academic journey. Her commitment to creating transparent and accessible learning tools has positively influenced both students and teachers, strengthening the alignment between instruction, assessment, and student achievement. Thanks to Jennifer's work, students have a clearer path towards mastering essential math skills, while teachers have a structured framework to support individualized learning. Jennifer's contributions to Thomaston Center School don't stop at intervention and curriculum development. She has stepped up to teach math in the Bridges classroom, demonstrating her flexibility and willingness to support students in various learning environments. She has also provided co-teaching support, ensuring that all students, regarding of learning style or ability, receive the guidance they need to succeed. Her colleagues describe her as dedicated, collaborative, and always ready to help, whether it's assisting with lesson planning, working one-on-one with students, or jumping in wherever needed. Jennifer's commitment to education is evident in everything she does, and the positive impact she has on both students and staff is invaluable. When she's not inspiring students and colleagues, Jennifer finds joy in spending time with her husband and 3 children who mean the world to her. She enjoys taking long walks with her dog, exercising, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and exploring new places through travel. These passions reflect her belief in lifelong learning, well-being, and balance, qualities that she brings into her work and shares with those around her. The curriculum department is incredibly fortunate to have Jennifer McAtee as part of our team. Her expertise, leadership, and dedication make her an invaluable asset to our school community. We celebrate Jennifer for her commitment to student success, her contributions to curriculum development, and her willingness to support and uplift those around her. Please join us in recognizing and thanking Jennifer McAtee for her outstanding contributions to the curriculum department, Thomaston Center School, and Thomaston Public Schools. And this was submitted by Jennifer Price. Congratulations. Next, we are pleased to recognize our April 2025 shout out to Mr. Christopher O'Keefe, custodian at Thomaston High School. On behalf of Thomaston High School, we'd like to take a moment to give a well-deserved shout out to one of the unsung heroes of our school, Mr. Christopher O'Keefe, our dedicated custodian. Chris has worked and contributed to improving Thomaston High School for 9 years. Day in and day out, Chris goes above and beyond to make sure our building is clean, safe, and welcoming for everyone, both students and staff included. Whether it's arriving early to ensure classrooms and hallways are spotless, staying late after events, or stepping in at a moment's notice to help with unexpected situations, he does it all with a positive attitude and a true sense of pride in his work. We can specifically recall one situation in which Chris immediately assisted to attend to a student's medical needs without hesitation. He handled the emergency situation with genuine care and professionalism for the student in need. Our students and staff continue to benefit from Chris's hard work every single day. From keeping the school looking its best to helping create a comfortable environment for learning, Chris plays a critical role in the success of our school. Anytime something is needed, Chris is an all-hands-on-deck team member. As a seasoned professional, Chris often can be relied upon to mentor and guide colleagues. In preparation of each school year, Chris works closely with our custodial staff to ensure that current expectations are met and addressed in a timely manner. Outside of Chris's daily duties, he continues to exhibit the desire to grow as a professional. In the fall, Chris is attending a CPR certification class to assist staff and students as needed in potential emergency situations. We are thankful that Chris prioritizes safety over all of his responsibilities in his role as our school custodian. Please join us in thanking Chris for everything he has done for Thomaston High School students and staff. Your reliability, professionalism, and kindness create a positive environment for everyone who walks through these doors. Thank you for all that you do. An additional round of applause for Chris as he prepares to welcome his first grandchild. And this was submitted by Christina, Mr. Becca, and Mr. Spencer Luthi. Congratulations. Moving into our presentations, we have our first presentation, Micro-Credential in AI in K through 12 education, with our AI cohort from Thomaston Public Schools. Mr. Thomas Andronowitz, Ryan Carey, Susan Larson, and Cindy Sabalsik.
Good evening, everyone. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Ryan Carey. I'm the business education teacher here at Thomaston High School. And before I begin, on behalf of myself, my fellow speakers, and the rest of our AI team, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. All right, with that being said, let's get right into it. So, AI technology, or more specifically, artificial intelligence as it pertains to education, is what we're going to talk about here tonight. So let's begin by asking the most important question: what is AI technology? So So in order to answer that, if you look at the slides that you were provided earlier before this evening, it gives a very textbook definition of what AI technology is. And from a simple standpoint, most people really only understand it as far as maybe some of the science fiction movies that they watched as kids, where it takes over the world. And that's not necessarily the case. In a more simple term, it is a program designed to think like a human being. It thinks, it learns, it problem solves, and it does this using a complex combination of algorithms and databases loaded with information. Now, that's a very dry description of what it is, but in a nutshell, I like to, at least in my class, I like to present it as a program in which it tries to understand what you're doing. So the best example I can provide of that, if you're writing something down on, let's just say, Microsoft Word or any other word processing program, you're going to write down a body of text, maybe a paragraph or even an entire story, and the program itself is only designed to look for spelling errors, maybe some grammatical mistakes, very simplistic things. Okay, it's just going to read what's there, but all it sees is words and symbols. An AI program is entirely different. An AI program now is going to read that exact same body of text in the same way, only it's going to attempt to interpret what it is you're actually trying to write. It's attempting to understand you. And the reason being is it's attempting to understand the message that you are trying to convey, so that it not only points out simple errors here and there, more importantly, it's going to try to instruct you as to, hey, this is the idea you're trying to show me. Here's a better way to do it. Here's a new way you can write it, or here's something you can add to it to add even more understanding and add even more context to allow your readers and allow a much wider audience to actually understand the meaning of what you're trying to convey, if that makes more sense. Okay, so it's attempting to understand and help you in ways that simple software programs just cannot. So in elaborating on that, I will say that the rest of my group, myself included, we underwent an extensive program, an extensive course. Actually, our superintendent joined us in that program as well. And it was a comprehensive training program that combined classroom learning along with hands-on modules and hands-on activities to help us as educators better understand the whole idea of AI, and more importantly, its applications in the educational space. And if we can turn to the next slide. A couple more. Keep going. Keep going. One more. There we go. All right. So the outlook of the, or excuse me, the overall kind of summary of this program is right here in front of you. But the 5 things I want to go over are the 5 key areas of focus of this program, which really helped us out. And that is, it outlines the 5 pillars, or what they consider the 5 pillars of AI technology. The first one being foundations, which is just what I told you guys. What is AI? How does it work? How can it be applied? The second part, prompting, which in the simplest terms means AI can only provide to you what you give it. So understanding that when you ask a certain question, you will get a certain response. So how can you refine what you're asking to the AI program to get a better response out of it? In other words, how to utilize it in the most effective means. Shifting assessment, that right there is more of a means of improving what it is we as teachers do, or more importantly, what we as teachers can deliver in the classroom. So it's not just taking an assignment and making it better, it's also taking an assignment and protecting it from the misuse of an AI program, like taking it and like shoving it into a program and saying, hey, please solve this entire thing for me. Take all the work out of it so that I don't have to. Well, an AI program is smart enough to say, hey, why don't I take your assignment and modify it for you so that another AI program cannot be used to cheat with, if that makes sense. The next part, multimedia. AI can actually be used by teachers to generate multimedia platforms such as slide presentations, custom videos, custom images. It can allow us to produce different displaying technology, or different displaying materials to help convey whatever message is in the classroom. And then finally, it also covers future focus. So gave us a little bit of a glimpse of what we have to expect in terms of the future of, technology as it pertains to AI. And with that being said, I would like to now turn the floor over to Mr. Tom Andronowitz.
So again, like Mr. Carey, I just wanted to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to attend this course. It meant a lot to me. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about how to use AI, and I've started to use it in some of my courses that I teach. If we can go to the next slide, please. So, or the next couple of, one more slide. And these are a couple of other programs that were used throughout the course, Magic Schools AI, Napkin AI, Hey Pi, all different things that can be used in an AI platform to create different opportunities for learning and growth. Next slide. One more. So what does it mean for schools? It's really meant to help both students and teachers, not only for efficiency, for lesson planning, and writing adaptive lessons that we can provide for our students, but for students as well, in terms of providing them specific and specialized instruction. Schools also use AI tools for things like chat box to answer student questions and help with outside support. I also wanted to thank Mr. Costa for providing the opportunity at Advance to participate in these programs, because it was even just beyond this course. I went to another offering as well, which really looked at, well, how do we make different products that we can give to our students that they can use AI tools in a safe manner. So the next few slides are going to look at how in Thomaston Public Schools, we're going to look at Black Rock School, Center School, and then to high school.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm Cindy Savalsik. I work at Black Rock in grade 3. And this was a really interesting, fun course to take. So I was really pleased to be able to participate in it. As far as grades pre-K through 3, not only can AI personalize and differentiate the learning for students, it can save time and streamline the tasks. Teachers can benefit from AI at the elementary level by using it to assist in writing lesson plans, designing rubrics and curriculum, as well as modifying and creating assignments. Oh, yep. Okay, and also embedded in this slide, if you take a moment to peruse it, there are 2 examples of how I've used AI since taking the course. It's helped me to create some rubrics, including the one linked in here this evening, and also some of the Marzano proficiency scales. So we kind of hit the ground running and really have started using it quite a bit. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susie Larson. I'm a reading intervention teacher at Center School, and I had the opportunity to take the AI course, which was very hard for me. It was a good learning opportunity because I had no idea what AI was. And now I know how to prompt AI to get what I want. So it's a good starting point. At Center School, we're not really, like, we're just starting. Teachers are really using the tools to modify lessons, to differentiate instruction, to write really nice emails that sound professional, but really get that point across in a nice way. We're not so much yet into having the kids use AI too much, although last week I had the opportunity with some 5th graders who were working on a biography project, and they did this beautiful we cut the face out and they put their head through, and I am Winston Churchill. But it's a speaking and listening goal as well. Well, that was the hardest piece for them. They did all the research, they did all the design, but that presenting piece was a real challenge, and they were in a flat out panic. So I said, hey, let's use ChatGPT and get a little brief summary of your key points that you want to share with your class about who you are. Liliana Van Ormer, not Liliana, her sister, Isabella Van Ormer. She took this and ran with it, helped all of her classmates with their summaries. And the coolest part is that you could tell Chat GPT, I need a summary of the life of any person they chose. And because we're all at different reading levels, even though it was for a 5th grade class, one student was able to say, can you make it a 2nd grade reading level? So that she could feel very confident being able to read and present. The next phase, we started a little bit of paraphrasing and changing little things to make it our own work. So as we start to allow these tools into the hands of our kids, we also have to teach how to ethically use them as well. But it was a great first step.
We can go to the next slide. So at the high school, I started using some tools with my capstone kids and getting them to create some videos with AI. And there's someone up on stage who used AI to create her video for capstone project. And I think it was a useful tool to get a quality product with very little effort, to say the least. Although it didn't do everything for you, you still had to prompt it and give it the information to create what it is that you exactly wanted, and what you turned out was great. So on a teacher's side, we're talking about lesson planning, creating assessments and scaffolding instruction, individualized modifications and differentiated assessments, teacher goal creation, and as Sue said before, writing those emails that really need to be sensitively written, whether it be to parents or other colleagues or to administrators. Wordsmithing is a great tool that is seen in a lot of email programs that we see now. And obviously there's a risk. Are we worried that students are going to be plagiarizing and copying and pasting? Absolutely. So that's where we need to have some policies in place to ensure that when we do use AI with students, that we are indeed using it appropriately. And the last part is I did work with some EL students this year, and AI is a great tool for that translation piece as well. So in terms of the specialized instruction, Sue is going to talk a little bit more about the specialized instruction.
So I was speaking more generally before on how some of the benefits of AI in the center school population was mostly geared for the adults in the building. But I'm so excited because we have some great tools in our district. This year we have our Amplify program, which is our new reading program, which comes with online progress monitoring that tailors it's the Boost program, we call it, to each student's individual needs. I never would have thought of that as AI before, but it's definitely AI. So it's taking all of their information and creating personalized learning experiences for them, which is perfect for my classroom because I have all different abilities of readers. So they come in and they can all have their own personal success. One of the things that I love to do is to take a text. Today we're reading about the nonfiction piece about 9/11, and not all of the kids could access it. So I'm able to actually take a whole text, copy it in, and AI will create it at a different reading level for students so that everyone's talking about the same topic, everyone's learning about the same topic, but at their rate and at their ability level. So this tool for me is going to be a life changer. I know that we have our Smarter Balanced assessments coming up next week. We have several students who use speech to text and text to speech. So those kids that can think of the ideas, but they just can't get them out, can now speak them and it types their answer for them. So all of these different layers of success can come for all learners. Cindy was just over there saying, yeah, I took one of the passages from Amplify and put it in, which is you use Magic School. Perplexity, put it in, and it created a reader's theater of the text for students. So the possibilities are endless. And we did have the extra training at Advance one day. It's just so much that we just need some time to play around with it. But I feel like in the intervention field and in the special education field, it's really helping me to write appropriate goals for kids for intervention. But I'm thinking of the special education side where we're writing these IEP goals that are tailored specifically and layered and to structure the rigor. And sometimes it's just hard to come up with the words. So you put it in what you need and it pops out this beautifully written. You're like, yeah, that's what I meant. So it's able to allow me as a teacher to kind of offload that, like the mundane stuff, so that I can get to the teaching. And also when I was talking about the kids who were making the little summaries for their biographies, they were so stressed about that that they weren't going to have success. So this took that piece away so that they could have success with that, with the speaking and listening. So if we can use this tool to just kind of put aside some of the less intense things and use it for the high impact learning and the critical thinking that we want our kids to be able to do, that's where I'm seeing AI as our future in Thomaston.
Next slide, please. Oh, keep going. Keep going. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm just going to briefly go over the advantages of AI technology in the education space. Next slide, please. Now, I will say we've pretty much covered all the bases in that regard, so there's not really a whole heck of a lot that I have to go over that hasn't already been said. But as you can see here, it's perfect for personalized learning, especially when we're talking about the special education space. There's a lot that it can offer in terms of modification and scaffolding. In terms of instant feedback, again, students can actually put in their own words into an AI program what they want to say or how they want to communicate it. And AI can tell them, hey, you're either on the right track, or it can say, hey, here's a better way to write it, or here's a better way to word it. And then finally, and especially from the teacher side or the teacher facing side, it can save us a considerable amount of time in terms of prep. It can not only help us generate and design very comprehensive lessons, but as I mentioned before, the actual visual aspect, we can create slideshows, we can create multimedia pieces, and we can also create grading rubrics literally at the push of a button. So the advantages are definitely numerous. However, as you can imagine, with those advantages, there are also the risks that have to be considered as well. If I got the next slide, please. Keep going. And next one. There we go. All right, so in terms of risks, two of the probably biggest ones that we have to consider, one of them is privacy concerns. Now, obviously, in the digital era, privacy is probably the most important, but yet at the same time, the most dangerous thing that we can have our students compromise, if you will. And when it comes to an AI program, the more a student talks to it, the more a student communicates with it, the more information it's gathering, not for nefarious purposes, but more to understand what that student is trying to convey. However, that information is stored, and eventually someone could at some point use that information for all the wrong purposes. So it would have to be very important to know where that information is going, and more importantly, who is viewing it. The next part is bias. Now, this is something that most people, students especially, do not consider. When you're using an AI program, The answers that it's going to generate, the information it's going to provide to you is only as good as the information it is drawing from. As I said before, it answers your questions based on whatever database it's currently accessing. So if you ask it a question, more of an opinion-based question, now it's only going to give you an opinion based on whatever was actually in that database that it's drawing from. So now a personal bias may come into play with whatever the information is that they're receiving. So it may not necessarily be the most accurate description or the most accurate thing that they could get. So that has to be considered. All right. Next slide. Next is the dependency on technology. Now, this is something that has gone, this has been a consideration and a sort of a problem for a long time. The internet age kind of brought this about, and now AI is starting to exacerbate it a little bit. And that is a student's total dependency on technology to do the work for them. Okay. And as I mentioned before, there are AI programs out there where you can actually take an assignment, you can take a question, especially a math question, and you can plug it into an AI program, and not only will it give you the answer, it will actually tell you every single thing you needed to do to get to that answer. So then it starts to beg the question, are the students really learning something, or did they simply find, an end run around the system so they don't have to do any work? All right. And then also there is the loss of a human touch. Again, this relates more to if a student is relying now more heavily on an AI program or a technology-based program to teach them, as opposed to actually talking to their teachers, talking to professionals, and learning in more of an experience standpoint, or from a more experienced standpoint. Now you run that risk of taking the human element out, and now they are only relying solely on whatever the AI program is telling them. And again, that also plays into whatever biases might be built in, or the credibility of whatever information that AI program might be drawing from. Okay, next slide. And that is it. So if you'll please direct your attention to Mr. Andronowitz to close us out. Thank you.
So where does all this lead us? We're at a point right now where we are kind of mandated by the end of the school year to come up with some policies. If you can go to the next slide, policies not only for our teachers and how teachers can and should use AI, and as well as how teachers are going to be working with students to appropriately use AI tools. Next slide, please. So we are in need of some policies, and we have to take into consideration some key points in terms of purpose and approach, and get some stakeholder involvement and make sure it's aligned with the policies and the district values and the legal frameworks that are currently in existence. Before the meeting, I looked up, CABE published some sample policies that we have to look at. And we were not the only 4 that took this class. There were 13 of us in the district that took this class. And there is a policy committee that's going to be putting together policy, hopefully by the end of the school year, that will address how students and teachers can use AI in the classroom in a meaningful and appropriate way. Next slide. So again, we have to assess and research, get all the involvement and stakeholders engaged, draft some frameworks, look for review and feedback, and then hopefully get a quick approval and continuously look at and evaluate the policy, because just like anything else, technology-wise, it is increasing in speed and ability every day. So there was just a big story last night on 60 Minutes about how the human emotion side of it can be portrayed in AI as well. Next slide. So again, I'm not going to go through all the testimonials, but there were 13 of us that took the class. They are in your packet and they are in your links if you want to just quickly flip through those. But does anyone on the board or anyone out there have questions about AI or where we are in Thomaston in terms of what we're doing with AI?
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure this mic was good before. Well, first of all, I think this is awesome, and everyone talks about. I jinxed myself. Everyone talks about the concerns and benefits of AI from a student standpoint, so I'm glad you guys looked into and did training yourselves to see how it could benefit the staff side of things. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you guys do great work for the school district. If you're able to keep up the quality of the work that you already do, but do it in a more efficient manner and save yourselves more time or be able to pivot to other tasks, I think that's awesome. And that's really a conversation I haven't heard about or even thought of myself until tonight. So I think the amount of possibilities through that are pretty interesting. One question, and not sure if I missed this in the beginning. I saw that there were two organizations beginning of this presentation. This was through EdAdvance and who?
Southern.
Southern. So, and
It's called a micro credential.
micro credential?
Correct.
Okay. And how much did they cover this program in this training, or was there any cost in the district?
I will defer to Mrs. Cost.
Like bulk? Okay, and this was, and by students, we mean staff members that we sent there to learn about this. Okay.
It was all
That's
virtual.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I mean, we talked about it in policy today as well. Policy committee just before this, that we're going to be taking up and looking at those policies, but also getting feedback from you guys first. So I think this is definitely an opportunity. I just hope that we're able to protect the students in terms of privacy and also in terms of, yeah, don't plagiarize. Student reps don't plagiarize. Making
I
sure
think
that
with
stuff
anything
doesn't-
else too, it's getting the staff comfortable with utilizing it in an appropriate way as well.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, I remember, and again, I'll snitch on myself right now. I remember back when I was going here, and I was in the class of 2019. You had stuff that teachers had to look at and screen out even back then, just through like Spark Notes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I think it's important that as we go forward and these tactics that are going to be used to try and circumvent work and learning just to get a grade, it's better to evolve with the process than just stick our head in the sands and wish it weren't the case.
Right, and there are districts in the area who are already putting policies together and implementing them. Because the fact is, AI is not going to go away. We have to find a way to teach and learn about it and teach students and teach teachers about how to use it appropriately.
I think maybe then we should make this policy with AI.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andronowitz.
Thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to our next presentation, we have our strategic plan update with Jonathan Costa from the Executive Director of EdAdvance.
Good evening, everyone. This is an appropriate lead in to the strategic plan because the strategic plan in Thomaston was really inspired in some ways by the future potential of AI. And essentially what we did was take a look at a framework that existed in the district already, your vision of the graduate, and simply focused on the degree to which the district was implementing what it had already determined were the most important skills and dispositions that it believed every student would need to be successful after graduation. And I believe that framework was 8 years old. And when we looked at it with a fresh lens through the context of AI, we were convinced that that original work was still valid and still appropriate. And in fact, even more important, given the future of school through the lens of AI than before. And the reason for that is AI is going to do a lot of the foundational work for everyone in the future. And those things that will be most valuable for students to acquire prior to graduation, are those things that are uniquely human that cannot be done by AI. And your vision of the graduate captures those things perfectly. And that was really the conceit, the framework for the strategic planning process. If you hit the next slide, please. That is your vision of the graduate in the bear paw. Go Bears. Always, I'm a Litchfield, lived in Litchfield, went to Housatonic. We were always envious of Thomaston's athletics, even back when I was there. And that's so long ago, I don't even want to say it. But the things on the P are critical thinking and problem solving, communication, perseverance, collaboration, and citizenship. Those things that are truly uniquely human to each student in Thomaston. Next slide. Oh boy, you can't read that. That's just the table of contents of the plan. Is it going to go through the whole plan? Keep going. Next slide. Next slide. Those in the audience probably can't read it, but this was the process that the strategic planning group went through. And we had a nice mix of folks, Roxy, a number of teachers and students as well. And essentially what I did was create a framework where we all agreed that the vision of the graduate was the most important thing. So essentially what I did was ask the group to look in the mirror to see what it was that the district is doing to support the acquisition of those skills and dispositions and what it wasn't. So we created 4 data collection teams to go out and look at curriculum, instruction, assessment, and essentially how the district was ensuring that every student was capturing that vision of the graduate, and the gap between what needs to happen to have those things occur and what was currently happening, the gap between those two things was really the basis of the plan. So the what do we know? We went out and did the data collection. We brought back the results. We discussed as a group what the data says, what it meant, and then we decided what we would do to try to close that gap between what the vision says and what is happening on a day-to-day basis in the district. You could go to the next slide, please. So essentially what we came up with were the main themes that you see prior to in the data collection was the urgent need to adapt education to the evolving landscape of AI, prioritizing just-in-time learning over just-in-case learning, redesigning curriculum instruction to cultivate those essential skills and dispositions, and strategically allocating time and resources to prioritize durable instructional activities. Your teachers talked about being careful about having AI do the work for students. Well, if you design work for students to do that can't be done by AI, that's not as big a concern because they can't cheat because the assignments are set up accordingly. And then finally, aligning the educational systems and stakeholder engagement so that everyone in the community understands what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what it's going to look like when it's done. So next slide. Next slide. And so here were the 4 data collection groups. We had the curriculum instruction group, the evaluation and assessment group, the professional development group, and the community engagement group. In each one, you can see were a couple of essential research questions that I charged each group with doing, and they went out and they collected that data and they brought it back and we analyzed it. Next slide. 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 So based on all of those results, there were 5 strategies that the group came up with as critical for closing the gap between the vision and what was currently happening. And the first is to engage and empower stakeholders through collaborative visioning. This is more outreach to the community, get people more involved, help them understand what is happening and why it's happening and why the district is redoubling its commitment to its vision of the graduate. Next slide. And then to make a systematic effort to integrate the portrait of the graduate, the vision of the graduate into curriculum instruction. What happened 7 years ago when the district did it was they created it and it was wonderful and supported, but there was so much in the curriculum already that was very little room to systematically integrate it into the daily teaching and learning across the district. Many teachers were doing it on their own, but there was no systemic effort to do it all the way across. So we knew that that really needed to happen. Next slide. And then finally, to give teachers the tools they need to be able to impact that teaching and learning process effectively, to use AI, to use all the tools at their disposal to help every student achieve that vision of the graduate. So those three broad strategies ended up with 5 specific goals. Next slide. So goal 1, enhance professional development and build educator capacity. The 13 graduates that you have from the micro-credential and AI are an example of a start of that. And this will be broadened to include the rest of the faculty, not just in the micro-credential, because the more skills you have, the more internally facing development you can do for yourselves, but to make sure all teachers have the skills they need to teach to each of the skills and dispositions in the vision of the graduate. Next slide. And then to systematically integrate that portrait of the graduate into curriculum instruction. So as your curriculum revision cycles get underway, make sure that critical thinking, problem solving is prominent in all of those revisions so that essentially no student can escape engaging with those critical skills and dispositions on a regular and consistent basis. Next slide. And more important than that, to make sure that all the staff have in their frameworks a vision of what good critical thinking looks like, what good problem solving looks like, so that students, as they move through Thomaston K-12, get consistent feedback from school to school about what success looks like. Next slide. And to engage the community in activities, learning, communication about why this is happening, what it will look like, and how it will benefit students from Thomaston in the long run. Next slide. And to build that through a variety of different sustainability strategies so that the community is with the school as they move forward. They understand it, they support it, and they believe it matters for their students in their future. So really, the future of the strategic plan in Thomaston builds on something that you already have, the strong foundation you already have. It just systematically looks at making sure that every student gets that experience before they leave, so they have the skills and dispositions they need to be successful, no matter what AI does to the future of economic opportunity. And that impact is going to be great. The next 10 to 15 years will really shift how we think about academic success and economic opportunity driven by the forces of AI. And I commend the Thomaston Public Schools for being proactive to position their educators and their students to be prepared for that future. Questions? All right. Thank you. Take care. Yeah.
I have a motion to approve our strategic plan.
Steve Carr, vote to accept, approve the Thomaston Public Schools Strategic Plan 2025-2030 as presented.
Napier, a second.
Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? you're voting up? Moving on to our student representative reports.
Starting with academics, during the month of March, many students are just getting into the swing of the third marking period and continuing to focus on classroom success and positive outcomes for the future. Teachers have focused on the ELA department and strengthening that area of teaching with interventions and assessments to measure students' growth in areas and target of future improvement. High-performing students were recognized for their academic excellence, in which they received honor roll letters mailed out. These reinforced the school's commitment to healthy habits in the classroom. This was a very crucial month for the academic progress with students and helping them stay on track for the second half of the school year.
Clubs in March. The Science Club had a volleyball tournament and a field trip to the Marine Aquarium for both on March 14th. The Drama Club performed Grease the Musical on March 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. The Student Council prepared a Say Something Week, which was March 3rd through March 7th, and had activities planned for the whole school, including a school-wide breakfast with talking cards to talk to other students. Student Council also had a lock-in in the school on March 28th for grades 9 through 12. And Interact raised $144 for a Pasadena Humane Society to help the organization care for animals injured and abandoned during the California wildfires.
Moving on to athletics, the boys basketball team ended at the 5th seed in the state tournament with a record of 16 wins and 6 losses, and the girls are 8-14 as of February 25th. The boys varsity team made it to the Berkshire League tournament semifinal and narrowly lost to Nonawag 60-58. The Lady Bears also made it to the Berkshire League tournament semifinal game and lost to the Gilbert Yellow Jackets 53-43. Despite both outcomes, the teams both showed much resilience and strong efforts across the board. The indoor track and field team has had a very successful season and has shown good performance in the Berkshire League championships. Both the girls and boys teams delivered valiant performances, and the boys secured 3rd place in the Berkshire League. The girls team achieved a commendable 2nd place finish as well. The winter sports are coming to an end, and the spring sports are almost upon us. Spring sports signups are currently open, and students are heavily encouraged to register themselves into a Thomaston spring sport.
For special events in March, there was an all-star assembly on March 10th, the superintendent student of the month breakfast on March 14th. 7th and 8th grade had Susan B. Anthony assemblies on March 5th and the 20th. There was a blood drive on March 24th, sponsored by the National Honor Society, and the Career and Technology Education Career Fair for 9th through 12th grade was on March 27th, and there was a post-university field trip on March 28th.
Moving into academics for the month of April. As of April 2025, Thomaston High School continues to focus on academic excellence and students' preparation for post-secondary endeavors. It's the first half of the 4th marking period, and the students are looking forward to class trips and the conclusion of the school year. The school's commitment to student success is evident through its diverse programs and continuous efforts to enhance learning outcomes.
For clubs in April, the Science/LAS Club had a field trip on Tuesday, April 8th to the Thomaston Dam. STEM 8 and LAS had a field trip to Pratt & Whitney on Thursday, April 10th. The Travel Club traveled to Florence, Rome, and Italy during spring break, which was April 12th through April 19th. The Thomaston Ladies Choral Club had rehearsal on Thursday, April 3rd, 24th, and 29th. NHS is having introductions Wednesday, April 30th to introduce the upcoming members of NHS.
In regards to athletics, in the beginning of April, the spring sports have gotten into full swing. The baseball and softball teams are showing promising signs of potential for the upcoming season, and the track team is thriving as well. The tennis teams, both boys and girls, are about to embark on a great season as they try their best to win. All areas of spring sports look quite good, and let's hope every team has success.
For special events in April, there was a life skills field trip to Target and Rosie's. The 8th grade had their field trip to Gettysburg and Washington, D.C. from April 1st to April 4th. The makeup test for PSATs and SATs was Monday, April 7th, and there was also an all-star assembly that day as well. We had a day of service on Wednesday, April 9th, which is a day where the whole school does activities to help out around the school and the community. There was early dismissals on April 9th and April 10th for parent-teacher conferences. April break was from the 14th to the 18th. There is NGSS testing for grades 8 through 11 on Thursday, April 24th. There is a 7th and 8th grade dance and superintendent's breakfast, student of the month breakfast, and senior spotlight photos for Facebook, all on Friday. Oh my goodness, Friday the 25th. And that concludes our reports for March and April.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Moving right along. Next up, we have my report. So you all received your token of appreciation from March. That was our board appreciation month. So I thank you all for your volunteer service to the town and students, ensuring that we are doing our best from the district and achieving successful outcomes for our students. So thank you. We have our progress report on our goals as presented. Tanya, do you have an update on the 150th committee?
We're still going in as planned. The parade is still June 28th. We're looking for any volunteers, student volunteers that would like to help with setup, cleanup, anything like that. Also, we have a family fun day at Nystrom's planned July 12th. It's a Saturday from 10 to 2. And we're looking for any kids that would like to run games, help with cleanup, setup. We will give you volunteer hours. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. We have the second quarter honor roll as presented. And if I could get a motion for the potential change to the calendar, please.
Maybe I make a motion to vote to accept / approve the Thomaston Public Schools schedule. That the Thomaston Public Schools will schedule an early dismissal on the same day as the 2025 town budget referendum / referenda.
Steve Carr, second.
Okay, so at this time, we have our Chairman of the Board of Finance, Rich Cilio, here to give us a brief recap of the public hearing that happened last week. Some of us were unable to attend due to other obligations. And we will just mention that the date for the referendum is tentatively set for May 14th, 2025.
Microphone's up there.
I don't know which one's crazy or which one's not crazy. I'm gonna put that over there. Thank you. I'll just give you a quick overview of what's different this year than what we've typically gone through. Just so everyone's aware, we typically try to manage any increase to less than $1 million. which would preclude us from needing to go to a referendum. We would simply attempt to pass that at a town meeting. This year, we've had several rather large impacts to the budget, both on the expenditure side and also on the revenue side. So due to some state legislature changes, there's been a significant impact to our revenue side. We are basically down for next fiscal year about $1.5 million. So that's a pretty big number. There's been a significant change on the motor vehicle taxes, how they're done, how much they're going to bring in, and how quickly they're going to depreciate. We've also had some cuts from the on the ECS side, which have impacted things. So the revenue side's been heavily impacted. And then, we've had a lot of impact on the expenditure side, a lot of which has been driven by unfunded mandates. We have approximately 1,400 unfunded mandates coming from the state this year. Some very sizable ones. One great example of this would be early voting. So early voting has added $30,000 a year to our budget. So that's a pretty sizable hit. So all that, balancing it out, we went to the public hearing with just over a 3 mil increase, 3.22, I believe the number was. After hearing a lot of feedback from folks who attended that meeting, we went back and made some more changes to the budget. We cut a little bit more, not to Board of Ed. We did get it down below 2. So sorry, it was 2.22. So I said 3. I apologize. That's the wrong number. So we're down below 2 now, but we're not down below 1, which means we will go to a referendum. It's very, very important that we communicate as much as possible that when a budget gets voted down in this town, it only means one thing: more cuts. It will be very difficult for us to get a budget below 1 mil going forward based on where we are from a hit to our grand list, as well as all the unfunded mandates coming. We will have to go back and figure out, if this referendum gets voted down, how we will go back and reduce the expenditure side some more, and figure out how to move forward from there. It is possible, I will say, we could be in another referendum situation. I don't see a way forward that gets us below 1 mil in any way, shape, or form. So if this one goes down, we'll have to go back and cut some more, but I don't see us cutting to the point where it'll be below 1 mil. So that's a quick update on what's changed over time, both on the revenue side and on the expenditure side. Any questions?
Thank you for coming, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to ask, and you're 100% right. I mean, Hartford's put us in quite the position with all the unfunded mandates, and just about around 2/3 of our entire town budget is from Board of Ed. And just in terms of the unfunded mandates that apply just to us and us alone, and because of that affect the town, is in the hundreds by itself. And just to go off of that, if cuts are voted in because the budget is voted down, with us being about 2/3 of the budget, a lot of those cuts are probably going to come from here. So for the parents at home, can you repeat the date, the location, and the time of when this budget referendum will be?
So the referendum,
May
the
14th.
referendum will be May 14th,
I just didn't hear the time.
all day.
All day.
Yeah.
6 to 8 normal
6 to
voting
8
hours.
Normal voting hours.
Normal voting hours.
Yeah. No early voting for that one, but
Well, at least we don't have to pay for that, but I just want to make sure everyone knows, because we haven't had a referendum for quite some time, correct?
that's correct. Yep. Yeah. Normal voting hours, 6 to 8.
And to be clear, if it's not approved, this will be cutting people, because there's nothing else to cut from.
I understand that.
So please vote.
So vote.
Any other questions?
I will answer that for you. We are asking for this half day to allow the parents to get out and vote. Because as was just stated, if this budget fails, we will be cutting people. And we do not want to do that. So we feel if the children are home, then the parents are home and they will have no excuse for not getting out to vote. They can take their kids with them to the voting booth. It's been done in the past. Any other questions?
I just want to clarify, one of the things that was brought up at the Board of Finance meeting that preceded the town meeting was that at the last referendum, which predates me, so more than 12 years ago, at the last referendum, the superintendent at that time pulled voter records and found that a good number of Thomaston employees who lived in Thomaston did not vote. So having the early dismissal could assist with that number increase.
Any other questions?
This is Sari there. I did just want to say, if we have the normal voting hours, I'm just worried about parents. If it's a half day of school, having to find daycare and that kind of situation, putting them, in another one of those binds. If there's time before work and after work, that's what I'm saying. 6 to 8 is a long time.
Understood. Anything else? Yes.
I want to remind the Board of Ed that by law, my position as superintendent on the budget cannot be articulated in public. I can only provide date, time, location related to the referendum. So as much as I may have an opinion or want to encourage people to move in one direction or the other, I am not permitted to do that under the law. I'd be in violation. So any promotion of action onto our parent group or onto our staffing group will be very bland from me. I just want to make that clear. All you're going to get is date, time, location. Okay.
I do have one more question. I don't know if Superintendent Claus, you would have the answer to this, or if Chairman Cilio would have the answer to this. Typically, historically, I know it's been quite some time, what has the turnout been for referendums? Like town budget referendums?
I don't think I've been on the finance board when we've had one. I apologize. I don't know that. I can tell you when we've had town meetings, they've been in the range of, 20, 30. It's in Lena Morton Gallery, so not more than that. The last one we had was pretty sizable because it was in the just in the school, center school. So that was pretty sizable.
Our next, the motion carried 5-3. Our next motion is regarding a change to the 25-26 school calendar.
A Viera make a motion to vote to accept / approve the proposed changes to the 2025-2026 district calendar as presented. Thomaston Public Schools.
Stephen Carr, second.
Okay, so the reason that this is being proposed is that our curriculum director wanted to move the professional development to election day to align with other districts in the area so that the singletons in our district would have the opportunity to have professional development with other singletons in their districts. And what I mean by that is, for example, our language arts teacher for foreign languages, we only have one. So if we had it on election day, she would have the opportunity to meet with colleagues from other districts that have election day as their professional development day. AFSCME is not in favor of this move as it will disrupt staff schedules and routines. The other option is to have it on November 10th, which is the day before Veterans Day. So that has a 4-day weekend for the families, and the administrator union and the teachers union are in favor of that day as the professional development day. And that would be less disruptive to families as well, because then they just have the long weekend to deal with instead of having to take 2 days off in the middle of 2 different weeks. And the problem with that is that then our singleton teachers would not have the same opportunities for professional development that they would if we did it on election day.
There is a lot of like different conferences too for other departments on election day, because a lot of districts do have it off.
Mhm. So
Right, right.
do you want to clarify any of the points I made, Superintendent Cost?
No, Chairperson Finer, you made it. Fine work there. It was a fine job of it. The only thing that I would like to highlight is what Sarah said. There are many more opportunities on election day than on typical day. And if we wanted to have our staff, even those who aren't singletons, would have opportunities on election day that wouldn't be there. If we wanted to have them participate, then that would mean that we would have to decide to send them and have a substitute in the class as opposed to making that the PD day. So I just wanted to highlight that too. What we typically do with our district calendar is once we've counted out our days and set the certain days off, I send it to the 3 unions so that they can give feedback. So knowing that this was a suggestion to make a change to a calendar that we've already approved, that's how we got this feedback. Is I said, let's send it to the 3 unions and hear from them.
And their feedback was November 10th is as the preferred date. So in regards to the motion on the table, do we have to amend it if we want to vote on that date instead? Because the presented date's election day as of now. Correct?
No, it's not.
It's already set. Oh, so this would, okay. Okay. If we pass this, it's changed to election day, to be clear. Okay. Thank you.
And to clarify, our staff would prefer the 10th.
To clarify, the union presidents want the 10th. That's who was asked. And the answer was given back to me rather quickly, so I don't know if they actually solicited the broader group or if they were just calling it, calling an audible because they knew what their constituents would want. But the option one was suggested by a member of that union who oversees all of our professional development. That was the key that started this whole conversation. And if one of our goals in our strategic plan is to make sure that we provide professional development, this would be an opportunity to maximize professional development on that day.
And this also, Steve Carr, this also helps out reducing costs for additional subs.
All day. So you could have that day, or if the end of the day off, they call it off.
Does a decision on this have to be made at this meeting? Is there a certain timeline that has to be where a decision would be needed to schedule this?
I think for consideration for parents and staff planning for next year, we really should get this done in this school year because we did have this set already for next year. So people already have this calendar. It's already out there on our website. If we were to make a change, we would really want to make sure we get it out there early enough to broadcast it.
Because I'm just curious about what the feedback from the staff and the general membership of the unions is on this. And in terms of the opportunities that would be only on election day and people that would be missing out, how much we would then be paying out for substitutes.
I would venture to say that we would not get enough substitutes in order to send the number of people that would have the desire to go to professional development. And so it's probably less the cost and more the availability of those who could cover classes.
Well, then my question, both you, Madam Chairwoman and Superintendent Cost, would it be inappropriate to table this motion and ask for the union to get feedback from their membership? Do you think that would be inappropriate or realistic?
Or do we have maybe another option of not changing it for this year, but getting that feedback and changing it the following school year?
We can do whatever we choose to do, but I want to caution you that if we put a question out to the broader group and they lean in a direction that maybe isn't the best for the opportunities that we want to provide to them, I'm not even talking about costs, I'm talking about opportunities, and it's not in alignment with our strategic plan, then we're actually asking them to answer a question and we're kind of ignoring their response. So if we're going to put the question out there, we have to be ready to respond accordingly. And I'm telling you to look at your strategic plan, which says we're supposed to be providing opportunities for professional development. Most of that PD, most of it is inclusive. It's either free of charge or at low charge because there are so many people that are participating in it. And we would not have to worry about students missing a day of instruction or having a substitute. Like I said, I really think it would be more like me finding out that we couldn't provide coverage for people.
So then if we keep the date as is, we're saving funds and getting more instruction for staff.
You are diminishing the opportunity for staff to have professional development on a similar day, because if we keep the day that we have off now, it's still a day off.
Well,
It's still a PD day.
In terms of election day, but there would be more opportunities for more development on election day. And since there's more people going from other districts as well, we're saving money is what I'm asking.
You could be possibly, yes.
Okay.
You could also be getting more opportunities for those people that don't have opportunities when we run our own PD because they're singletons.
Any other questions?
So just one more time, can you just clarify on if we vote yes, which date this is for?
Election day.
Yes is for election day.
Correct. All those in favor of changing the PD day to election, November 4th, say aye.
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 Yeah, he's, I think, yeah.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. Okay. Moving into our next motion regarding calendars.
Nate Viera, make a motion to vote to accept / approve the 2026-2027 district calendar as presented.
Steve Carr, second.
Okay, so this is our normal approval process for the 26-27 calendar, which is, a year out. So, people can start scheduling their vacations. Any questions regarding this?
This is the
No,
next school
this
year.
is the
Steve,
next school year.
after this, that one.
You
It's
just
It's
voted
already
to
there.
update 25, 26, and now you'll be approving 26, 27. And election day is being used for PD in the 26, 27 school year.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. I have a motion to approve our CABE resolution.
Nate Viera, make a motion to vote to accept / approve the CABE resolution, quote, digital citizenship program and online safety education, end quote, as presented.
Steve Carr, second.
Okay, so this is our annual resolution that we try to get CABE to adopt at the annual assembly, delegate assembly to advocate for with our legislators. And we are asking that you vote to approve this. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. And the last thing on my report is the approval of the superintendent's monthly reports.
Nate Viera, make a motion to vote to accept / approve the superintendent of schools submissions of a monthly report to support her progress in reaching the measurable areas of responsibility per policy 2400 per the action taken by the Board of Education during the December 9th, 2024 regular meeting.
Stephen Carr, second.
Trying to keep the swiftness going. I will let you read correspondence on your own. But I ask that when we get to item 1.1.5.10, that you take a moment to vote to acknowledge my correspondence per policy 2131.
Nate Viera, make a motion to vote to acknowledge the superintendent's correspondence per policy 2131, administration - superintendent of schools as presented.
Steve Carr, second.
Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.
My correspondence too from the Board of Education are as listed. The reports that follow, we have a general report University of Bridgeport Skills Self-Efficacy Scale for Adolescents. There has been a request to allow for the University of Bridgeport to administer this survey to our students. I ask that the board take action on this request at this time.
Xavier, I make a motion to vote to take formal public action approval. Formal action approving, directing the superintendent's response to the University of Bridgeport survey for students of Thomaston Public Schools.
Stephen Carr, second.
Questions?
Just want to clarify that that motion indicates that you are approving that the survey can be administered. I support that. The survey is it's innocuous. There's nothing that's going to be harmful to our students. Unlike other surveys that have been requested of us, this one will just go right to what they say. There's no underhanded or back way of asking questions of our students. It's very straightforward.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Under administrator reports, we have the reports for March and April, but we also have the revised professional education review of practice plan. And that was revised after the State Department of Education provided feedback. The state is now requiring that the Board of Education approve it again with their edits. That's what's before you now. I ask that the board consider approving the updated review of practice plan.
Nate Vieira, make a motion to vote to accept / approve the 2024-2025 revised in Connecticut State Department of Education CSDE approved letter and educator evaluation and support plan, professional education review of practice.
Steve Carr, second.
I would just ask, is there, do you have like a brief description of what edits they made compared to what they had us vote on last time?
I had included them, but I'll impose on Mrs. Price. They weren't anything that changed the purpose or the direction of the plan. They were words that they preferred at the state over our words. Thank you, Mrs. Price, for taking care of that for us. I appreciate it. We have nothing under residency. We have 7 student discipline matters. We have 5 homeschooling requests. And we have the enrollment report, which also includes this month, the special education trend report that we get periodically. Then under personnel, since we modified the agenda, I am presenting to you now only items 10.3.1, new hires, 10.3.2, transfer, new assignment, reassignment, 10.3.4, retirements, which are none, 10.3.6, stipends, 10.3.7, spring coaches, and I ask that you acknowledge those items as presented.
Steve Carr, vote to acknowledge the superintendent's notification of personnel, specifically new hires, transfers, retirements, resignations,
Nope.
renewal, stipends per policy 4112/4212 personnel, certified, non-certified appointment and conditions of employment as presented.
Napier, a second.
Questions or concerns?
Can't always control. Some of the stuff that you're doing. That's why the state, you don't take it as a rubber stamp. I'll tell you, every expulsion. I feel bad for the children. Give them a second chance. I don't know what else we can do for this case. Sorry. I don't think, there's no way I put a rubber stamp on that paper.
Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? I'm abstaining.
Then going back to personnel, only items 10.3.3 resignations and 10.3.5 terminations, non-renewals. Per the amended agenda, I ask that the board acknowledge these two categories in the personnel report at this time.
Napier, I make a motion to vote to acknowledge the superintendent's notification of of retirements or nope, of resignations and renewals as per policy 4112, 4212, certified / non-certified appointment and condition of employment as presented.
Steve Carr, second.
Tanya Galpin. I know I've discussed this numerous times. I'm going to beat a dead horse till it's totally dead. I do not like the way we go about non-renewals in this district. I think it's a crazy high amount in the last 2 years. I mean, I've heard from other districts, teachers from other districts that they even never do non-renewals unless it's budgetary. And they say, now we're starting to get a bad rep, right? Other teachers are now talking to other teachers, and I've heard them come to me and say, oh my gosh, you guys non-renewed 2 more teachers this year? What is going on? You never do that unless, and so I just want to say that I just think that we're getting away from Thomaston proud by what we're doing here. And that's all I have to say about it. And I just wanted to be on the record that I do not stand for this.
And I would just like to state for the record, for anyone who's here today, or anyone who is listening online, because I know there's quite a few residents of the town to where this is a big concern. We're voting on an acknowledgement. So if the acknowledgement fails, it's just that it's an acknowledgement. It does not change anything regarding the staffing in the school system or any decision, any resignation that's been made. Once a resignation is made, it cannot be rescinded.
So I would just like to point out that we do not have any non-renewals of certified staff. Correct. So the fact that you're objecting to something that doesn't exist is not kosher to the motion.
But to be fair to Tanya's point, and we've discussed this at several board meetings, most people, when presented with a non-renewal, resign rather than come to the board
Right,
for a
and-
hearing as per their right. So
And by bringing it up at a board meeting, we are now making this information public, which is going to damage those people's chances.
well, I'm
of
not,
getting a
I'm
job
not
in
sitting, I'm
another
not
district.
standing here saying, I'm not standing here, sitting here saying that any of these resignations were or were not. And, but I'm just pointing that out for matter of fact.
And I'm just cautioning you as a board member, what we're talking about here and what this means to people's livelihoods going forward.
Steve Carr, to make is to an understanding that it's the legal aspect of this in regards to the board's discussions is very tricky for privacy laws, but understanding that there are perceptions out there of the whys and understanding the disclosure of the true whys has to lie with that same type of privacy related. I understand that people are going to have opinions and everyone has entitlements to opinions and to hear stories and to hear all of those views. There is a process and it is not a easy one, and it is not the entirety is not driven upon expense or disciplinary or anything. It is collectively professionally done by regulations that are afforded by law to the position that the board in the past and current have given the power to do. So it is the outside perspective, the inside perspective and understanding without the full knowledge makes this a dangerous conversation. So it's almost a plea of humanity to just understand that perceptions are just that, facts are another.
I completely hear you, Steve. And just one other thing that I'd like to address, since this part of the agenda has to do with non-renewals, even though there's not a single non-renewal on this agenda. And just something I brought up earlier during my public testimony. Just as Steve said, there is a process. Like the process or don't like the process, there is a process. I would just like to set the record straight to everyone here and at home. The board does not vote on non-renewals. This is an acknowledgement. As I said before, this acknowledgement is not binding to any staffing changes, any preventions of people going anywhere, or if there was a non-renewal, there would be a process, and those staff members, at that point, the board serves as jurors to that case. And it's important for board members to stay unbiased and not get into the nitty gritty and the personal details ahead of said case, so we are not compromised and can effectively participate as jurors. I just want to state what the process is currently, because I do see people on Facebook or hear people talking downtown saying the board votes on non-renewals. No, we do not. This is an acknowledgement, not a binding vote on any kind of decision. I mean, even if there were a non-renewal in this agenda, we would not have the final say at a meeting in this fashion or any other fashion as to whether or not that non-renewal goes through unless it is challenged and a case is made before the board by that employee.
Thank you, Nate. It's working. I don't even know. The only thing I would like to just make a comment on that I brought up this subject last year as well. And my only concern regarding this process is that that the process is not being followed fully and staff are not aware of their rights. And that is my concern as well.
Would be a union representation where that support can't come from a direction of a board member nor a staff. Right?
Yeah, and I agree with your concern, Beth, but in terms of the policy standpoint, the policy is being enforced. It's just our policy doesn't say that that needs to be done. And we did have conversations with our attorney on whether or not to do that, and a vote was never cast on whether to change the policy. And so the policy stands as is.
The direction related to non-renewals is in Connecticut General Statute 10-151. Just wanted to put that out there for the public to know. There's a deadline in that statute and there are requirements in that statute, and we adhere to that. If there is to be a non-renewal in any given year, the process begins in February. and it would have to end before that deadline of May 1st. Typically, the Board of Education, it's brought to the February meeting where the Board of Education directs the superintendent to tackle any non-renewals because of the vagueness, or I should say the use of the interchangeable use of the word board and superintendent in statute 10-151. So it's recommended by the attorney that the board take action to tell me to take action so that we're both taking action. So we satisfy that statute. And then there are only two reasons for non-renewal. First of all, non-renewal can only happen to someone who does not have tenure. So it is typically someone who has worked for 4 years or fewer in this district. They could have worked 25 years somewhere else and come here for 2 years. You know, it's in this district. And there are only two reasons. One would be budgetary and one would be for cause, which means that the person is not meeting the standard of Thomaston. While I have been here, there has only been one budgetary non-renewal that didn't come to the board because they had resigned. All other non-renewals have been for cause over the years. And those two have not come to the board because people have chosen to resign because it is a detriment to their career if they were to go forward with a non-renewal in public. And that is how they're represented by the union, typically guided in that way. We don't guide, the union guides. So if there were any non-renewals this year, which we see that there are none, but if there were any, I want to address one of the comments that was made earlier, similar to what Frank addressed with a comment. If there had been any non-renewals, they would not have been for budgetary because we would have all been aware that we were laying someone off because we couldn't afford to keep them. But there are no non-renewals on our agenda, nor have there been this year.
To clarify for stuff that's been going around, if the person in our district is non-renewed, if a teacher was hypothetically non-renewed, do they get told the reason as to why they're not being renewed?
To find out the reason why they're being just being told budgetary or for cause. If it's budgetary, well, there's the answer. But if it's for cause and they want to know the nitty-gritty of it, they should go before the Board of Education and make that.
So if they don't.
The law does not obligate us to do that, and that's why they have the hearing before the board. Then we would have to come with evidence to explain either being non-renewed for cause.
Can you clarify then? It's policy 41-17.4, non-renewal suspensions. A teacher so notified may request a written statement of the reasons for non-renewal of the contract within 3 calendar days of receipt of a non-renewal notice, and the district will furnish a written statement within 4 calendar days of receipt of the request. That's before the board hearing.
Yes, so what they would get in that statement would be non-renewal for cause. That's it, period. Or non-renewal for budgetary, period. They would not get a list of description. That is reserved for the board hearing. So they would only get those two answers, which is the same thing they would get verbally.
So potentially they wouldn't know until they came to a board hearing.
Potentially, but the way that we run our non-renewal process is there are multiple meetings on your way there. So, but we are not obligated under the law until they get before the board, other than to know budgetary or cause.
You said cause. As these teachers are going through the process, are they working with other staff or supportive staff to get them to where they need to be? And if they are, and the staff keeps failing them, then what? Are they different staff, or does the staff continue to fail these teachers that are non-renewed? The two-part question. And if these whatever staff, supportive staff, do they get extra stipends for these positions?
I'm going to give you a blanket answer for that because I think there's a missing to your question. Every mentor that's assigned is a team trained mentor. Team is an acronym from the State Department of Education. they are trained to be a mentor for that person. So any new staff member is supposed to have, by rule of the state, a mentor for 1 year. Here we do 2. So if you really are flailing in year 1, you still have your mentor in year 2. Many districts do not offer that support. So yes, they have support as far as if they're being failed support, there's certain criteria that the mentor has to have met in order to become a mentor. It's not just random person who's in the room next to you. It's someone who's been trained to be your mentor.
Okay, so is that mentor in the building with you, or could that mentor be in another building across town and not knowing actually what's going on?
It could be either one, but that mentor does sit in your room from time to time and observe your lessons, because you have to write lessons and share them with your mentor so that the mentor can know what you're doing.
Okay, so another question, sorry. So in other professions, they'll have the mentor, like I'll just use police, for example. Your field training officer will come in and he'll sit with you and you'll go on with him. Now, if he doesn't think you're right, you'll get another one to review it and see, and you'll work with that person, and maybe that person works with you better and you then become a certified police officer. Is that something here, or is you're with that mentor the whole time and never get to change up because maybe your personalities don't mix?
So you are with that mentor because there is a reason why you've been assigned to that mentor. In a district of this size, for example, if we have a singleton, you're getting a mentor that's as close to that singleton as you can get. All right, I'll use an example of something we don't have here, a teacher of Russian, a Russian teacher. We'll never have one, but let's just say if you are exclusively a teacher of the language of, Russian language, I'm not going to be able to find you another mentor that teaches Russian, but I might be able to find you another mentor that teaches a foreign language. So you would be paired with them. Or if you are a foreign language teacher and we've had a new program that opened up, say at the elementary school where we've never had foreign language before, and the only other foreign language teachers at the high school, you may be paired up with them because that's the best pairing. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. Also, too, if the only other foreign language teacher, again, going to my example, that could be your mentor isn't team trained, then they shall not be your mentor. And we have to go to the next best connection to what you're doing. And that mentor sits with you to help you through the process of completing your next certification level as well. So you're not just popping in and having quick conversations. You're having after school time, you're having discussions about planning, discussions about writing the module that you have to complete. So it's a very dedicated process that has a timeline that has to be adhered to. So if we had to judge whether someone was failing someone as a mentor, it would mean that the mentor wasn't able to get the person across the finish line. And then we would have to be looking at, was it the mentor or was it really the person? And that's how we determine the non-renewal.
Well, and that just brings up my comment or question. What supports do we have in place besides a mentor? I tried to research in the teacher's contract today and all our policies to see if we have a performance improvement plan, steps laid out so that any non-renewal or leading up to one would not be a surprise to the employee. They would kind of know, oh, hey, I'm on a corrective action plan. So
I'm going to sound very coarse now because it's what it is. When you are a non-tenured teacher, you are owed very little. So having a process of a performance improvement plan is not typically considered because you can be non-renewed. I'm just telling you what I'm talking lawyer talk here.
I know
I'm no
I
attorney.
totally understand that.
Yep.
I guess my concern is that us as this small hometown district bring these new teachers into our district and we don't support them or give them the expectations of what we want to try to keep them here for consistency for our students. That's my concern.
Beth, we give a full orientation. They have a full day of orientation, plus they have a mentor. In some cases, some people have 2 mentors because if they're in a separate program because they're not yet certified and they're in an ARC program or they're in some other type of racial shortage kind of program, they get some other type of person that comes in from the outside. So there are ample supports. And then it's a matter of professional judgment to determine whether is it valuable to keep someone for multiple years if they're not meeting the expectations that were given to them, or is it more useful to non-renew? But in this case, this is all a moot point because we have no non-renewals. Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know how many are trained, and I wouldn't dare beg Jen to have that number off the top of her head. Okay. Anything?
I would just like to state for the record that although I mean, at the point when someone has tenure, yes, in terms of an improvement plan, we have to give them one because we cannot, for lack of a better term, and to be course myself, get rid of them. Yeah, and but I think in a small district like this, I think there's definitely value into looking in that, not because we have to, but because we should. And we could talk about cost savings of not going out and finding new people and training, so on and so forth. But also just look at what makes our Thomaston district Thomaston. We have so many long-standing teachers, and I wish I could say some of them by name, but policy does not allow me to. For good reason. I'm not complaining about that, to be clear. But that have been here for such a long time, and they get so involved with the extracurricular activities that inherently, for lack of a better term, they become institutions in our community. And they see the changing hands of generations come through our school and then see and keep watching those students come through, enter the workforce and go into their career. That's what makes Thomaston great. And I think, and I'm just one member of the board, whether the board takes action on this directly in some other form through policy committee, because this wouldn't be the setting for that. I don't think it's a question of do we have to or do we not have to. It's should we. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anything else? All those in favor of acknowledging the superintendent's notification regarding this motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So as that motion was a tie, it did not carry. Moving on in the superintendent's report.
We have 7 staff requesting family medical leave. We have 1 new intern or student teacher. And we have our field trip to Cooperstown per the invitation from Chippewa. I ask that the Board of Education vote to accept and approve the field trip to Cooperstown, New York as presented.
Hold on. I'm just maybe make a motion to vote to accept / approve the field trip to Cooperstown, New York as presented.
Steve Carr, second.
Any questions?
Well, I would normally turn to our student representatives, but they're not here.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
We had 1 request for the disposal of technology equipment that is obsolete. That request was made by Jose Ortiz, one of our IT specialists. There is no action that needs to be taken by the board on that matter. My report has concluded.
Thank you, Mrs. Cost. Moving into our committee reports. We had the Achievement Committee meeting back in February. And you all received copies of the information that was presented at that report. One of which was the new plan from the state for our teacher evaluation. We're having another Achievement Committee meeting at the end of the month, which everyone is invited to attend. Did anybody have any questions regarding that? Okay, moving into our Budget Audit Committee.
Steve Carr, vote to accept and approve the transfer as presented in the February 2025 Business Managers Report.
Nate Beer, a second.
Expenditures for the month, we had $1,377,218.57. Steve Carr, vote to accept and approve the business and finance report and the expenditures per policy 3432/3433, business non-instructional operations budget and expense report, annual financial statement as presented for February 2025.
Nate Beer, a second.
Aye. Steve Carr, we met again for March. Expenditures for the month of March, almost duplicate, $1,375,519.24. We proposed the increase to the meal prices 25-26 for the school year. And so I have vote to accept and approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Updated.
It's updated, sorry. Right, what do we moved on here? You crossed off that one.
Which one? We're doing that motion now, or you jump into the business finance one and then we're gonna.
This one I don't have, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the first one had less pages.
I apologize for the delay. So this one. Vote to accept and approve the updated meal price increase submitted by Jennifer Zarelli, Food Service Director for the 2025-2026 school year.
Nate Beer, a second.
Okay, so for clarification purposes, we were presented this proposal back in our March Budget Audit Committee, and the committee said, no, we wanted it to be looked at again. And so we just got this new proposal for the increases, which you all have a hard copy of. And if you turn to the second page, you will see that the increase is 25 cents for breakfast and 40 cents for the lunches. And for all of the reasons that are listed in that proposal. Did anybody have any questions?
I have some comments. I actually did some research this afternoon, and all the districts surrounding us are between, their elementary schools may start at $3, and the highest one goes up to $3.75 at a high school. $4.05 for a school lunch seems like just, it's a very extravagant amount of money to spend for parents. I mean, we know we're going through this budgeting, and that's going to add to their monthly expenses. And 40 cents a day doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up. And I cannot support this.
Just a few questions.
Second time the charm. All right, there's a few questions about how the payments for these school lunches work. Do we make revenue off this? Does this partially subsidize and we're still losing money, but by an increase, we lose less money? How does that work?
So any debt that occurs from someone not paying their lunch bill is put upon the Board of Education to pay out. The funds that come from the state that reimburse our food service cannot be used for paying debt.
Well, no, I'm not talking about debt. I'm just
Well,
talking,
what I'm saying is right now we have about $7,000 worth of debt and the Board of Ed will have to pay it. So if we raise the cost of a meal, you may have more debt. You may just have a larger amount of debt with the same number of people who don't pay their meals. But the law has changed over the years and we cannot deny a child any kind of meal at all. It used to be that you would make the meal less appealing when they had a balance of debt. But now what you have to decide tonight is it valuable enough? Is it worthy enough of the increase to get to what is expected of us, which is $3.85 as an average weighted cost? Or keep it lower, knowing that we already have debt from about 20 students that add up to that $7,000. They're basically never paying for their meals ever.
but I mean, more so what I'm asking is, are the prices reflected in this increase reflective of the actual worth of the meal? Or
We're still
is there-
underpaying, they're still
still-
underpaying for the meals.
Okay,
Yes.
about how much, and I'm sure it's different by school, but about how much do you think we're underpaying?
So based on the current paid meal pricing, the district would have an average of $154 on food for lunch and 96 for breakfast. If we kept it at a lower price, which isn't sustainable because whatever funds they may have to offset that will come from the Board of Ed, and we don't budget for that. Further, the increase brings us closer to the weighted average, which is the national paid lunch average, which goes against what Sarah is saying, but it's what the information is that our food service director gave to us to use as comparison.
And this is the national lunch average?
Mhm. The national paid lunch average is what determines how much we get per meal. So that's why she's using that number.
Oh, in terms of. Sorry, I'm just a little bit.
We get
in terms of
reimbursed for
reimbursement
some of
from-
our meals.
Okay,
So the reimbursement rate comes from a national level. It doesn't come from a local level. So depending on how much of a percentage we have of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, that varies how much we would get in return from the federal government.
and about how much typically, what percentage of our students are on a free reduced lunch qualify?
We're in the 24% area. We really should be higher than that, but we have very proud families.
We need to be on, like, there's other districts, neighboring districts that do give free lunch to all their students. I just think that it's hard to put upon parents that are paying their bill, raising 40 cents. That's a lot. And if their students do get breakfast too, that's another 25 cents. It's almost $1 a day.
Sarah, we need to be well above the 50% mark for us to not go into debt for free and reduced, because we'd have to be able to cover. If we want to do free lunch for everyone, our free and reduced reimbursements would have to cover everyone, even though they may not qualify for free and reduced. So we would have to be very high, or we would have to commit funds in our budget to cover the difference.
Neighboring districts have gotten grants like to help offset that.
So our most recent grant does not go toward lunch debt. It has to go toward equipment, or it could go towards staffing. I did not permit it to go towards staffing because then we wouldn't be able to sustain that staffing once the grant ran out. So what we have been doing is doing all of our equipment using that money so it doesn't come out of the Board of Ed. So last time we had to replace equipment, the Board of Education budget had to pay for it. It's supposed to be a self-sustaining program, but there are certain rules and regulations that prohibit them from really being truly self-sustaining. Like I said, if they have accrued debt from someone who has not paid for their meals, they cannot use what they've taken in for funds to pay down that debt. Board of Ed has to do it, and we have to do it at the end of every fiscal year. We have a very generous donor from one of our local churches in town every year, very generous. They have covered a good portion of the debt. The debt this year is high.
And I did look at their prices, and their prices, are they going up? Do we share like the buying of the food together so that that can offset that?
We don't share the purchasing of the food. We don't get any kind of volume discount. We share here where we didn't do that before. So BlackRock would order theirs and the high school would order theirs. Now we make a large order and divide it across the 3 buildings. We do have a discount that way. But no, we don't share costs of food with Wolcott, just the cost of the food service director.
Something else that was brought up in the budget committee when we were discussing this too is this isn't alleviating the free lunch and reduced lunch option. And if anything, it actually encourages participation that the food service and what we need as a community from the community to participate in filling out those forms for the participation. Because if we can get people to fill this out, this helps us on the reimbursements and stuff. So it's not to make it not affordable or to make things tougher. The same programs that have been available, but our hands have been tied because we need the participation from the community to complete these forms so that it helps with the what grants we can file for as a community. We understand that, the pride concerns or people just wanting to be able to do it themselves. But that doesn't help the programs for the schools for these reimbursement programs or the grants that might be available. So there'll still be qualifications for the reduced and free lunches. This is not something that's going to, increase poverty. It's actually hopefully to incentivize for people to participate more, to help people so we can show how much more help we can give.
See, there's families in town.
And that, but there's also families that or pay their bill, and 40 cents is a huge jump for them. You know what I mean? $4 is a lot of money for a lunch for a child. I see what you're saying, Steve, but I think that, if I don't think it's going to incentivize those people to go and do it. If they don't want to do it, then this is just going to make it harder for them as well. It's like a no-win situation.
Frank, I know you have great faith in me in knowing everything that happens here in the district, but I really don't memorize the lunch menu. What I can tell you is that what is served what is the main meal in every building is served at different portion levels. That's why you have your different prices depending on if it's BlackRock Center. Yes, it's a balanced meal according to the specifications of the National Food Program.
Cheese is $6 a pound. So I don't think $2 a pound. That's what a drink.
One of the things that I want to go back to with Steve's comment is applications for free and reduced lunch that are successful, people who qualify. If we do have a higher number of people qualifying, that also helps us with our non-competitive grants, also known as entitlement grants. So it will increase money going into professional development, into staffing needs, things that we already have grant money for. It would just edge us up a little bit more. So it's smart to apply if you think you're close to the threshold. But I agree with Tanya, the threshold hasn't moved in many years. So we're now at a point where Connecticut's minimum wage could exclude some people from qualifying that used to qualify. 7.
Is there a way we can market it better? Like send it out in its own, it comes in like with all the announcements. Separate?
Food service director sends out the messages directly.
Like saying, hey, see if you qualify, just click here.
We even, during open house, we even give chase to people. We hunt them down and hand them the form. Concerned about this tied vote because a tie means no change at all. And we already know that it's not sustainable based on the report that came from our director. So I'm asking the board at this time to provide me with what they would like to see at the next board meeting, because all we can do is come back with more information, but I would want to know what the more information might be.
From my standpoint, with my vote, some things I would want to see is verification of some of the stuff Sarah brought up. How much are surrounding districts or like districts paying at each of their levels on the schools? And in terms of, well, no, but I want to see them on paper. I want to see them compared. I want to actually see the figures confirmed, and especially if Wolcott is using the same provider. Yeah, but the cost per meal is not going to change based off how many, unless the cost goes down because you're buying more in bulk. In terms of
Elementary school and $3.50 for their middle and high school.
How many students?
I'm not saying that.
Well,
but I'm
that makes
saying,
a big difference.
does it?
Well, yeah, why in quantity, you get a lot less.
Okay, but why is Terryville so much cheaper?
Students are terrible.
I have no idea, but I'm just saying.
and
Or that information is listed. So you said surrounding districts as well as like districts. So I will have her
surrounding
give us that
districts as
information.
well as like districts, and in terms of people buying in bulk, yeah, you're right, Frank. I'm not saying you're wrong. That's that's the numbers. But one thing, I'm not saying anyways, I want verification, but when it comes to these numbers, what I want to know so we could make a vote or an update decision at the next meeting is maybe we don't go with this number, maybe we come closer to some of their numbers if some of theirs are higher, or we make a decision based off data. Right now, I'm looking at a current. I'm looking at, hold on. But right now, what I'm saying is that, Frank, is that data perfect? Absolutely not. But right now, well, you could also look that up. But in terms of like districts, I mean, we have, I forget, what is it called? DRG, where we could look at like districts in terms of the demographics of the town, in terms of median income, household income. Yep.
There's 16,000 kids. That's impossible to match.
Well, that's something.
So a DERG would give you a like district that's both like in size from a range, but also like in socioeconomic demographics. So you could have a district that has the same number of students as us, but they could be more or less affluent than us. So using the DIRG will get you the best true comparison of size and of affordability.
Well, I'm just gonna go on that. And is that, again, is that information gonna be perfect? No, but I think it's better than just what I'm looking at right now in terms of this and proposed. And then I'm not saying we shouldn't raise, I'm saying, show me the Carfax, show me how much more we should be at if that's the case. And also what makes us closer to whole, because if we make it too high, and this is why I, as a board member, am hesitant to make this decision with what I'm looking at now. If we make it too high, then less people pay. And then more people we have to cover because we are mandated to. We have to, we're not operating in a void either. We have mandates. We have well over 1,000 that the town has to cover to stay in compliance. And if we have to pay everyone's food who does not pay for their plate, then our debt doesn't go up even though we're raising prices. And that's a double-edged sword, one for the town and two for the good people that actually are paying their plates.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are there options of purchasing elsewhere for food supplies, or is it all through one program?
There's pretty much only a couple of major suppliers that you can use.
Maybe if those surrounding areas that do meet the demographics, if there's maybe finding out what resources they use, if there's a potential option, might be something. But if it comes down to numbers, and if you have X amount of students and have an X amount of cost, it's how we have to do as a community to.
Yes. Yes. The other thing that you have to remember too is that there could be centralized kitchens in some of those districts. Where I taught, there was one giant kitchen that fed every school on one side of town and another one on the other side of town. So I am going to ask for that as well, because a centralized kitchen would have a different labor cost as well. So that would help keep the prices down. So what I'll ask for in the next report will be verification of surrounding districts, what they're paying or what they're charging, I should say, verification of like districts, and we'll use the DIRG as the definition of like. And then we want some supplier information so we know if they're using Cisco or if they're using, whatever the supplier is. And then I would like to know, I know the cost of food has gone up. And I would like to know if it's a centralized kitchen.
Also, and I hate opening up this can of worms, but if we are looking at if the answer is a competitive distributor, there's got to be a ranking on there. So I mean, we can't just say, oh, well, we can get it cheaper from here and then find out that they're serving subpar stuff. So I mean, the standards.
Now, I'm confident that we are working with the most cost-effective vendor or vendors through the supplier.
Everyone is comfortable.
We spend a great deal of time pinching pennies in the food service department. So I'm I would be surprised if our director overlooked any savings.
My final point on the matter is that we're trying to get a budget to pass that's going to cost people anywhere from $200 to $500 a year. Putting this upon those same people, that can be detrimental. We want this to pass. Like, I feel like we need to dig further. The budget is very important this year, and implementing a 40-cent increase on one meal is a lot.
That point also, if our budget's getting cut and we don't have but we have the expense increasing, we have to be conscious of that too. So.
The kids sign up for lunches like in the morning, or are they just blanketly making food and wasting at the end of the day? Like when I went to school, you had to sign up in the morning for lunch. Yes. And then they had a count on how many kids are having lunch today. So they knew they had enough food, or almost the right amount of food, so you didn't have any waste at the end of the day.
That I don't know. I know that when they go to get their lunch, Tanya, at the elementary school at Black Rock, there is a barcode sheet because the kids can't remember their ID. They're so little because the ID is a very long number. So they scan a code sheet with the child's face next to it. So they know this is Johnny, this is Mary, this is Susie. All the other buildings, you either type in your own or you tell the person at the register that this is my number and they charge it. So I don't know, and I can get that information, but I really don't know. That's a good question. So you have a motion that needs, something has to be done with that motion. Right? Do we have a motion? You voted, and it was 0. Okay, thank you. It's getting long, day's getting long.
Do we need to have a motion to move the item for next meeting, or is that something that will be done? Okay. Big one?
I know, you're on this one.
No, okay. Steve Carr, vote to accept, approve the business and finance report and expenditures per policy 3432, 3433, business non-instructional operations budget and expense report, annual financial statement as presented for March 2025.
Nate Viera, second.
One quick question. It's regarding our proposed budget for next year. If the budget doesn't pass at referendum, are we gonna have a special meeting to discuss the budget, or what are we gonna do?
So we need to have a meeting where we understand what the Board of Finance's plan is, because they'll make the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for the next step. If the plan is to avoid a referendum, they would have to bring the budget down to a 1 mil. But based on the information that was presented to the town, that doesn't sound feasible. Even the budget that's being presented now for vote isn't really what is needed to pay the expenses. So I would say if we were to have a special meeting, which we could very easily have a special meeting, we would need to be ready to have one with the assumption of either a town meeting within a couple of weeks of that referendum or another referendum. So we should plan on having some flexibility the last 2 weeks of May so that we can get together and be prepared. But I would want to either invite Rich to our meeting or minimally allow me to have some time with Rich and bring that information to the board. Mm-hmm.
In favor? Okay.
Right, the next motion will be the previous one. Will that affect the outcome on this, or? Okay. Steve Carr, vote to accept, approve healthy food options specifically pursuant to CGS section 1021(5)(F) as in Frank. The Thomaston Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
Nate Viera, second.
Steve Carr, vote to accept, approve, combined food and beverage exemption, specifically the Thomaston Board of Education will allow the sale of students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutritional standards and beverage not listed in section 10.221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage schedule. Food and beverage. There we go. Items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practice, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The quote regular school day, unquote, is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Nate Viera, second.
Aye. Steve Carr, vote to accept and approve policy 1316 amendment proposal, relations between public and school personnel as presented.
Nate Viera, second. Nate Viera, I make a motion of fast track. I just don't see the.
For the bylaws?
Yeah. Oh, no, I just didn't see the name of which one we're fast tracking. For the bylaws, 9,311 of the Thomaston Board of Education policies will be adopted or amended after consideration at 2 regular meetings of the Board of Education, unless by a vote of 2/3 of the members present at the Board of Education meeting, the board permits a fast tracking of the policy adoption or amendment. I move that the policy committee's proposed amendments to policy 1250 visits to the schools, policy 5112 pages of attendance, and policy 0200 goals/objectives for the Thomaston Public Schools be permitted for fast tracking by 2/3 vote of the members present at tonight's Board of Education meeting.
Steve Carr, second.
Aye.
Aye.
And Nate Viera. I just not do. Make a motion to accept/approve the changes to policy 1250 visits to the schools as presented.
Steve Carr, second. Aye.
Avery, I make a motion to accept/approve the changes to policy 5112 ages of attendance as presented.
Steve Carr, second. Aye.
Aye. Nate Viera, I move to accept the changes to policy 0200 goals/objectives for Thomaston Public Schools as presented.
Steve Carr, second. Steve Carr, vote to enter into executive session for the purpose of attorney-client privilege communication, inviting Superintendent Francine Koss, Thomaston High School Principal Christina Kingsbury, and Thomaston High School Assistant Principal David Vecca.
Nate Bier, second.